Welcome to Jets Rewind. This is Marty Shupak. I'm in Valley Cottage, New York, and I'm joined by Ralph Sharega. He's up in Massachusetts, and Ray Clifford. He's in Ohio. Gentlemen, how you doing today?
Wonderful.
Ralph?
Just not bad, not bad.
All right, and I just want to throw some congratulations out to the St. Peter's Peacocks basketball team. They're having really a dream run in this tournament. They're in Jersey City, which is about 30 minutes south of here. I have a son that lives there. And the team is mostly comprised of New York City ball players and even the coaches from Queens, New York. So I want to wish them luck. I believe they play tomorrow, North Carolina.
Yeah, and North Carolina's in an 8th seed. They're not one of the dominant teams this year, so who knows?
We'll see what happens. Should be good. I don't know if you guys saw my text right before we came on.
Yeah, it's the most exciting news I've had in weeks.
Ray, did you see it?
Apparently not. Let me check right now.
Okay.
I saw your email.
We'll save you the effort.
Ray, you don't have to
yeah,
bog.
yeah, I did. Yeah, I did.
The Jets just signed about 10
Obviously, we're
minutes
very
ago.
excited about it, Ray.
Kicker Greg Zuerlein, who used to be on the Dallas Cowboys. And I guess they signed him because I was looking up his record. He missed 6 extra points last year. So
Yeah, I think Eddie Pinero's had a much better year last year in his limited.
well, yeah, in a small sample size, but
Yeah.
what I wanted to do really is my thing was, and I'd said it, I did a podcast by myself. I wanted the Jets to draft with one of their 5th picks, this guy from LSU, Cade York, who I think is going to be an incredible kicker. Last year, I wanted them to draft McPherson, and of course, they didn't do it. And Cincinnati did. They have their kicker now for the next 15 to 20 years.
Maybe. You never know with kickers.
You don't know. I know. But I always refer back to the Patriots that had like 2 kickers for 19 years.
I know. Marty, you're the kicker maven here. You want kickers and you want them to draft quarterbacks every year. And I don't want any part of either of them.
Yeah, okay. Anyway.
So they have a little competition. It'll be good. It'll be fun.
It's a big competition. And Ray, what I'm thinking is because they have this kicker Amendola on their
yeah, it's just a competition.
Yeah, they're going to probably, I don't think they're going to bring 3 to camp. I think they'll probably keep Pinero. They have a competition who's going to be on the team. And I don't know how going into this year, the last 2 years, or could even be 3 years now, they had a little more flexibility with the COVID list. And I think some of the general managers took advantage of that, like an extended practice squad. So we'll see what happens, but I'm kind of obsessed with kickers. It just drives me crazy. But anyway, busy week this week, and we did win out on the Tyreek Hill trade.
Oh, yeah, we did.
Right. Okay, and we're going to talk about it now. All right, so Ray, I want you to start. What's your thoughts on losing out on Tyreek Hill?
Now, it's not that I don't like Tyreek Hill. I think he's a great receiver, but
you like him as a player. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. I like him as a player, and I think he's dynamic, but I think we have so much further to go and still so many holes to fill. And when I thought it was just the 10 before they announced the details, I figured it was just the 10, like we all were kind of texting. And the thought that they were giving up both 2nd rounders and the early 3rd rounder, I felt like I did when the Vikings took Kirk Cousins, or the Deshaun Watson story blew up, the thought of him getting traded to us. We are not a wide receiver away from winning it. And if we hit on those picks that we didn't trade, we're adding 3 guys, to start, or at least good depth guys, hopefully, so I'm thrilled we didn't. And not only that, I think Kansas City would have preferred our deal over Miami's, but they left it up to Hill because our picks were all this year. Miami's were spread out, but I don't think Miami's. I think Zach's a better fit for him as far as ability, but I don't think we're there yet, because Tua's not a strong arm. He's not flinging it down the field like Mahomes. He's more accuracy and hitting guys, shorter passes and things. I don't think that's what Tareek Hill is all about. So we'll see if this works out for Miami, great. But I think we're better off right now.
Ralph, what are your thoughts?
Well, like most Jet fans, you're kind of excited and kind of concerned. I guess it reeks a little of a panic, a McCagnon panic move. I understand the magnitude of his talent makes it kind of tough not to kick the tires on it, and he did more than that. But he's a classless guy. The fact that he just said, "I never wanted to go to the Jets in the first place," he didn't have to say that stuff. I kind of agree with what Ray said. When they're not there yet, I want the picks, but when you sign, I get scared signing a one free agent to a monstrous contract, except a quarterback. So much can go wrong with it. I mean, the guy tweaks his hamstring and he doesn't have a good year. It's like, so I'm kind of glad that we passed. Well, that he passed on us.
I kind of disagree with both of you. And I wasn't like that till I found out that they didn't have to do anything with the first round picks. Tyreek Hill, and like a lot of NFL players, he has some skeletons in his closet. The person I don't
First,
endorse,
use your fingerprints to unlock the device.
but the player is such a dynamic player. I've always loved this guy. He's so quick, and I don't see them getting more than 2 or 3 years out of him. But I just think it helps jumpstart the offense and jumpstart Zach Wilson. Now, with that said, if he's on the team, I think it would give Joe Douglas a little less pressure to trade down with those 2 picks. And he could have gone back in the second round, and I think he would have. I just think the Jets never have players like this. And when they do, they trade them away. So I wasn't disappointed, but when I found out it wasn't for either of the first round picks, I was kind of upset. What he said didn't really bother me, but I just think this guy is such a dynamic receiver. It could have really opened up the offense. And, that's my feeling. All right. Anyway, talking about wide receivers, there was some rumors out, and it was denied by Seattle that the Jets might be interested, and they made a call for DK Metcalf. Would you trade the 10th pick and the 69th pick for Metcalf? And of course, if you did, we would assume to give him an extension, let's say 4 or 5 years. And I'm going to ask Ray first, but I just want to say this too. The problem with the extension, the way it's going, these wide receivers, they're just opening up the piggy bank like I never saw before. But also, it's been estimated that in 2025, the cap number might reach 300 million. So Ray, is that something you'd be interested in if it was offered to us?
I'd have to think about it, but I'd be more interested if instead of the 69 pick this year, they gave him something next year's draft, and just the 10th this year would be more along the lines of what I'd look for. But I feel like this is a receiver heavy draft, and you're taking a chance on a guy who hasn't been in the league yet, but I think we can find a guy who can be every bit of what these other guys are at a rookie wage scale for 3-4 years and be better off. If the Devontae Adams thing hadn't happened and blown up the wide receiver market, I might be more inclined, but it's closing in on where the quarterbacks are. And that to me is just dangerous territory. Wide receivers, I still have always felt wide receivers are like a dime a dozen. You get guys who don't even get drafted, end up in the Hall of Fame. So I think we can pick up a receiver or draft a receiver much more economically than giving away the farm and then having to sign a huge deal to keep them.
Ray, is it worth it though with a rookie receiver? Don't you think like a veteran receiver helps out in the progress of Zach Wilson. I feel like a rookie receiver has some sort of learning curve. I think if you have a guy like
Well,
Metcalf or Hill, it's going to help in the development of the quarterback.
well, my answer to that would be Joe Burrow to Jamar Chase was a pretty good matchup. I know they played in college, but college isn't the pros, and that was a couple of years ago. And actually, I think if Elijah Moore had stayed on the field, that him and Zach Wilson were developing a good chemistry. So I don't think you have to be a vet to give. And I'm not sold that I'm sold on DK Metcalf's physical abilities, but I'm not sold on him being the guy who can come in and, necessarily be this guy who's going to hook up with the quarterback and have a great chemistry. You don't know, some guys like, I think Tareek Hill is like a time bomb. And if he doesn't get the ball enough, him and Tua are not going to be hooking up, as have great chemistry. You're going to listen to him whining and pissing and moaning all year is what you're going to end up with at Tareek Hill. I'm not sure about DK Metcalf, but
Ralph,
that's what I feel.
Yeah, Ralph, what's your thoughts on the Metcalf?
I'd do that trade in a heartbeat. I think he's a rising superstar, and he's a stud. I think you're really only giving up a 3rd round pick because they're probably going to use that pick for a receiver who's not going to be as good as this guy. I disagree with you, Ray, about this class. I don't like this receiver class at all. I don't like Burks. I don't like London. Garrett Wilson is good, but he's not as good as DK Metcalf, in my opinion.
No, he's not the same receiver.
And we never know with any football player in any draft how they're going to adapt to the NFL. That Metcalf can play. And I think, it would work out. He and Moore are buddies from college, and I think it'd be comfortable. I would do it. And I would actually do it for the 4th pick and a 4th round pick too.
I wouldn't do it for the 4th, Ralph. I think
I just don't think the 4th pick is as valuable as you think it is. The only value it has to me is trading back, because I don't know who they're going to pick, and nobody else does too. I just feel like you can throw a blanket on the top 20 players. It's just I'm not a believer in a lot of these guys.
Well, Ralph, I don't agree with that, and I just feel after some of these pro days, just like we've been talking about, these quarterbacks in a lousy quarterback class are now starting to move up on the board.
Oh, that I agree with, and that's good. Yeah.
Yeah, and the latest rumor, and that's good for the Jets, and the latest rumor now is that Detroit is very hot on Malik Willis. The coach coached him in the Senior Bowl. He took him out a little early in the game. He didn't want to show too much of him, and that he's protecting him. And with his pro day, with the 2nd pick, the rumor is that they're going to take Malik Willis. Now, the other rumor is too now that Carolina is very high on Pickett, and that they might take Pickett. Now, I think all this, and if you have other teams that are interested, like the Steelers or even Seattle, it's going to make these picks more valuable. I would give up the 10th pick and the 69th pick, DK Metcalf. I would do it. I think he is on the rise. That one play sticks in my mind on that interception when he ran that guy down that showed a lot of pride.
Would you like to be reminded about?
And I like the guy, so I would do the pick. So that's my feeling. Let's talk quickly about the free agent signings, because we haven't been on in a few weeks. And I just want everyone to pick their best player or their favorite player. I'm going to go first. They picked 6, and actually, if you include Zerline.
Well, what about all the guys they re-signed? You don't count them, like
Yeah,
McDermott and those guys. You count them on the ones you don't like, though, because that's where that's. Believe me.
But I can't say I have one favorite. I more or less have 2 favorites. I just want to mention both. I think Jordan Whitehead, the safety from Tampa Bay, is an outstanding player. I think he's going to do a lot, stopping the run, stopping some of these screens, the way he comes up. I think the guy is on the rise. I really hope he's got a short-term contract. I hope it works out and they can extend him. I think he's like the best signing, tied. The other guy I like is Tyler Conklin. This guy is an athlete. People don't realize he was a basketball player. I think he's on the rise. I think he's going to have a lot more success with Zach Wilson than he did with Kirk Cousins. So those are my two favorites, Tyler Conklin, Jordan Whitehead. Ralph, you go.
Okay, I guess I can give two. I don't want to give two. Ray will have nobody left.
You can give one. You could do the same one. I don't care.
Right. I like Reed and Uzama. The thing about Reed and Whitehead is they both play with an edge. I like that on defensive guys. They might get a penalty or two here for overdoing it, but I think on defense you need guys like that. And the thing about Reed that I like is that it's at a primo position. It takes care of one thing. I'm not saying they shouldn't draft a cornerback, but you don't feel the pressure for them to do it with one of their first two picks now, which is big. The same thing goes with the tight ends. I don't think they need to draft a tight end this year. I know people say, oh, we'll pick one in the later rounds. He'd just be a developmental at this point. And I don't know what their plans are for Kenny Yeboah, but I think, he's their developmental guy. I like Uzama. He's a leader type. I like his height. And I like the fact he's pretty athletic. He can get down the field beyond the linebackers. And I can see, how long has it been since the Jets threw deep seam passes to their tight ends? I can't even remember the last time I saw that. And I think they can do that with this guy. So that kind of excites me. Okay, Ray.
Ray, go ahead.
Well, it's two, and one of them is Uzama, because I was excited about him last year when they said I didn't think that Cincinnati would let him go, but when I heard he was a free agent, I wanted him. So I was definitely excited that. The other is the obvious one, because I always gripe about the offensive line. So Tomlinson was my, probably my favorite one, actually, when they signed him, because, the more offensive line, the more the offensive line settles down and becomes a little more dominant, the more I think Zach will improve, and Michael Carter will improve, and you'll just see our offense take off. So, those are my two favorites for that. As far as the tight end, I agree. I don't think we will. And remember, the other guy who kind of interested me, whether or not it works out, would be Cager switching over to a tight end, and maybe he'll develop, because he was a big guy. So if he, we've seen guys develop from being, basketball players into tight ends. So why not a guy who used to be a receiver just put on a little weight?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, Ralph, I know you're laughing, but I liked him. He's got good hands. He didn't have really wide receiver speed. I really want to see how that works out. So I agree. Ralph, you had a question, just one that you stated about Barrios. Let me see if I understand it, because there's a couple of things involved. Go ahead, Ralph.
Well, I think a lot of I'm wondering, the Jets gave him a nice contract, not as much as he was expecting to get, but are they paying him? Do you think the Jets are paying him to be just a gadget guy and a return guy, or are they paying him to be their starting slot guy? So, and if so, do you think he has what it takes to be their starter?
Do you think? I'm just curious. Could you see Elijah Moore as a starting receiver on the outside?
Yeah, I can, definitely. I could see them putting him in the slot occasionally. I don't really want to see Elijah Moore in the slot, because one of the things about a slot receiver that you have to be is durable. You get beaten up in the slot, and I worry about Elijah Moore at this point. I think he's too valuable for that. And I think Barrios checks the boxes. I've living up here in New England, I watched for 20 years Belichick. He can't pick wide receivers who are wideouts, but he has a really good eye for slot guys, starting way back with David Patton and Welker and Amendola and Edelman. And he drafted this guy, I think, to be Edelman's replacement. It didn't work out because he got hurt. But the thing about slot guys is they have to be really quick in small spaces, which he certainly is. They have to be physically durable, and they have to be fearless. And I think he checks those boxes. People kind of you know, they don't take him seriously because he was a late round pick. He's a little guy, but I think he fits the mold of what I've been seeing slot receivers in New England for the past 20 years, actually.
He also, another attribute, he knows how to protect his body.
Yeah.
Notice. And in my mind, I remember when he caught a couple of those low passes by Zach, the way he really protected himself. I will yield to Ray. Ray, what's your feelings on Barrios starting in the slot?
I think, yeah, he probably can. Originally, I thought that's what Moore was here for, but as we watched him play, I think he can do the outside, and I think he can be effective being the outside receiver. And Barrios, you know, he checks all the other boxes that we need him for. He does gadget plays. We've needed a punt returner we can rely on for a while, and he definitely checks that box. And he's just a good guy on the team. I think from what I could tell, it looks like they like him, and he's a good team guy. So I don't know why things didn't. Well, Edelman was there is part of why it didn't work out in New England, but
he never even played because he got hurt,
yeah,
and they just lost him on waivers. Yeah,
but I don't think being the late round pick is. I mean, Edelman was I just looked because I wasn't sure, but he was a seventh rounder.
Yeah,
so.
and it took Edelman 5 years to get that starting job. He waited and waited too.
Yeah.
But I always knew, watching little bits and pieces of that guy, that he had what it took, you know. And I think people mistake the fact that lack of production sometimes, like Uzama, can be just because you're just not getting the chance in sports.
Uzama was stuck behind Eifert for years, you know, so he did. And when Eifert got hurt, and one of the many times, he played well. So he showed he had ability. So yeah, I'm excited for him too.
Yeah, I would love to see that, Ralph. I didn't give it a lot of thought, but if he could work out and you think he's durable, and Elijah Moore on the outside, I kind of like. The one thing I just want to go back, Ralph, to disagree with you as far as this year's wide receiving class. One player who I love, is just one player, and it's too rich to draft him at 10. If they could trade down and they could have patience, and if his knee checks out, Jameson Williams from Alabama, to me, is a budding superstar. I would love to have that guy on the Jets. I think he has a combination of speed, route running, and hands. And I don't know your feelings. I take it he probably won't play in the preseason and miss a couple of games in September. Would you take a shot of him, Ralph?
I would, if you move back, not at 10, no,
right.
It's too. You know, I don't know when he's going to go. Someone will probably take a shot at him, but you know, usually these guys, they get hurt, they usually go around later. But you know, like I said, yeah, I agree. If he was healthy, he'd be the number one prospect, but he's not. No. So that just adds to I think there's some depth, and I think you get a lot of good wide receivers in the NFL who are 3rd, 4th, and 5th round picks. But I think if the Jets pick a guy at 10, I think it can almost be a force. You know, like overdrafting quarterbacks. I mean, a guy like Drake London, who a lot of people are saying is going to be a top 10 pick, to me, he is an undersized tight end. If you watch his film, he's a lumbering guy. He gets all his yards you have to catch, either running through guys, over guys, or dragging guys, which is fine. But I don't want a guy like that, because the last guy we had like that was a Quincy Enunwa, and I knew he was going to break down physically. And this guy's already had injury problems. You know, Treylon Burks, I've looked at him. You know, the knock on him is that he was playing in the slot. I saw plenty of times he lined up in the outside, but he was just running go routes. I didn't see any route running for him. And after what happened with Mims, you know, I'm very nervous about that. And these are the guys who everyone's talking about as your top 3 picks, you know. So it worries me a little. I think Garrett Wilson is my favorite of all those guys, though.
Right.
One thing I would say, though, and it goes back to the Metcalf thing, because you were saying about drafting receivers and you don't like it early. And I never did either. But the thing I would say that's changed my mind a little bit about receivers is that the college and pro offenses have gotten much closer to being the same. And so a lot of them are running these routes already and learning these route trees. And some guys just aren't good at running routes, no matter how much you try and get them to be. Look at Mims had no interest in learning to run a route, apparently, but the offenses are getting closer than they ever were. It used to be so much different that you never knew what a guy was going to be able to do his first year or two. You know, he'd had to learn how to shake off blocks and get off the line. Now, you know, their offenses and defenses are very similar. So I'm a little more comfortable drafting somebody at 10 than I would have been probably 3, 4, 5 years ago.
So if Wilson's gone, Ray, who would you take if you were to pick
At
someone at
10?
10? Yeah.
You mean as a receiver?
Yeah.
See, I think that's too high for Olave. I even think it's too high for Burrow. I don't know that I'd be happy drafting a receiver at 10 other than.
Yeah, exactly. It's thin. It's a tough position for the Jets. Yeah.
I love Olave, but I'd like him at like 18.
Right.
You know?
Well, I'll say this. I really believe Wilson's the number one receiver, and I don't think he's going to get past Atlanta, who has no one at receiver right now.
You know, they did draft Pitts last year. You think they could? I know he's a tight end, but
He's
two
like
years in a row. He's
Yeah.
sort of a hybrid, I guess.
He is, but I want to ask Ray.
I think they go 2 years in a row with a receiver. Wow.
Yeah, I'm kind of
Be the
upset,
Detroit
but I have
Lions
to
at
have,
Yeah.
you know,
They did 3, I think, in 4 years or something.
yeah, I mean, they got to have someone for the quarterback to throw to.
Yeah.
But Ray, this thing with Jamison Williams, who I love,
Mhm.
and the Eagles are sitting there with 3 first-round picks, and I believe one of them is the 16th pick. If they were to trade up with the Jets to 10, the Jets move back to 6. I think it's 16. Is that right, Ralph?
They were in the middle teens.
Yeah.
If they're few, a
Alright.
couple
Let's
of
say
them.
it's
Yeah.
16, and
Yeah.
the Jets got a third-round pick. Ray, would you take Jamison Williams at 16, and then maybe in the second or third round take Alec Pierce from Cincinnati?
I would.
If you did that,
I mean, obviously he's got to pass medicals and stuff, but you know, I'd be just as happy with. I mean, I know everybody gushes over him before he got injured, but I thought Olave is sneakily better than people are giving him credit for, just because of his speed is better than people realize. His hands are incredible. He makes every catch. I'd probably be happier with Olave than him at that point. But if they went with him, as long as he cleared the medicals and they think he's the guy, I'd be okay with that. Yeah.
how about you, Ralph? If they were to move back and picked up an extra third,
I think going from 16 to 10, you might get a late second out of that.
Okay,
I have
and-
to look at the numbers.
and if
I wouldn't do it for a third. I'd do it for a second though.
and let's say,
A late second.
and
yeah.
let's say Joe Douglas had Alec Pierce as one of those seconds.
I love Alec Pierce. I loved him before the combine. I was shocked that he ran that fast, but I would like them to take him. I don't know where he's going to fall. I would imagine somewhere between their second and third round picks. So, but I don't know if I want to double up that quickly though on the receivers.
Well,
I mean, we got-
but it's an extra pick, and I guess
Yeah.
what I'm saying is I'm just looking for reassurance from my two good friends about Jamison Williams.
what I want to know is why is Philadelphia trading up to 10?
Well,
What's their
yeah.
incentive?
They're probably going to go for an edge, I believe,
Yeah.
like that. Yeah. So, all right. Anyway, let's move on. You know,
They
that's
can get David Ojabo for a song now.
well, actually,
Yeah, that interested me to see how far he might drop.
but you know, it's interesting, guys. I think that injury actually makes the Jets picks more valuable. Just
You
about.
know, I'm just amazed that everyone's so casual about an Achilles injury these days. It's just a phenomenal. That was a career ruiner back
Career
then.
ruler.
And,
You're absolutely right.
and it's like, yeah, he'll be fine. I read somewhere that some scouts expect him to be a late first round pick still. It's like,
I don't understand.
McGahee went in the first, and he had a horrific knee.
Right.
Yeah,
That's
so,
right.
You know, you get a good agent who can sell him.
yeah.
Anyway, as we enter
Buffalo wasn't that
the,
smart then.
we're in the fourth quarter here now. Ralph, you had an interesting topic about draft scenarios. So why don't you, I'm going to turn it over to you. Why don't you?
Oh, I don't even have it in front of me, but I was just thinking, well, to pick between these two scenarios. Marty, you added one with the Jets' 4th and 10th pick. The 4th pick, one choice would be the 4th pick, you get Kayvon Thibodeau, and the 10th pick, you go offense with Garrett Wilson. The other one, the 4th pick, you go for one of the two tackles, either Neal or Ekwonu. I imagine one of them will probably be there. And with the 10th pick, you go with Jermaine Johnson. And Marty, what was your choice?
I forgot. Let me.
It was something with Ahmed Gardner and a bag of balls, I think.
Shoot.
Let me see. Sauce Gardner at 10 and Garrett Wilson at 4.
Oh, okay. Wow, thinking really outside the box there. So you want, yeah, you can go first, Marty. Which one of those scenarios?
I'll go first. I think out of the scenarios, I like the Kayvon Thibodeau at 4, Garrett Wilson at 10. Everybody knows Kayvon Thibodeau is falling down the charts. I've heard a couple of people supposedly in the know say that he's not Joe Douglas's type of person. I think he's got some upside, though, that more than what people think. The thing with the offensive lineman, Ralph, your second one, and the scenario, I want to know what happens when they report for OTAs. What happens with Becton? Is he in shape? What his attitude is? I had told Ray, Ralph, that Joe Douglas should have two scenarios about entering the draft. One is if Becton comes in, 100% dedicated, and the other is like, we can't deal with this guy. And the draft is, I guess, the 28th. They'll have 10 days to decide. So out of the scenarios, I'm going to go with that first one. I like Kayvon Thibodeau and Garrett Wilson.
Want to go, Ray, or should I?
Go ahead, Ralph.
I can go.
Oh, go
yeah,
ahead, Ray.
go ahead.
Go ahead, Ray.
I don't care, either one. As usual, mine's if. If when the 4th pick rolls around and Ekwanu's there, I'm going with choice 2. I'm not as big on Jermaine Johnson, but I'm really big on Ekwonu.
Uh-huh.
But if it's Neal, I'd go with Thibodeau or Wilson.
Okay, fair
so
enough.
It just depends on who's available at 4 when we're up there.
Ralph, just so you know, if somehow they traded back and the choice was whatever it was in the top, let's say 12, Garrett Wilson and Jermaine Johnson, those would be my two.
Uh-huh.
Just so you know. But go ahead, you go, Ralph.
I would go with the tackles. And I think if you notice, Joe Douglas hasn't extended George Fant yet.
Yeah.
I think that's telling. I think he's waiting until after the draft. If the draft falls and he picks a tackle, my feeling is that they're gonna need another tackle in the next year or so. Either Becton is going to implode, or they're just going to move on from Fant after next year. Yeah. And I feel like this is their chance to get a stud. I guess I like I'm a guy who wants to build the line, so that's why I'm taking that, and then the defensive lineman.
Did you say Becton's going to implode or explode from his weight?
Marty, he's going to come in. He's going to come in looking good physically. I'm not worried about that. He actually looked good last year when he was working out. It's up top. Is this guy committed? Is he tough enough?
He's going to come in looking good, but he's going to leave looking like
I'll tell you what, and I said it last year. The Jets, unless something drastically changed, he's never going to sign a second contract with the Jets. I just don't see it.
Well, you're probably right. But hopefully he'll get a 4th round pick from somewhere down the line.
All right, look, before we close it out, there's still some free agents available. Joe Douglas has done everyone says a good job backloading a lot of these contracts. So if another Tareek Hill comes up, he could do something. But out of all these free agents available, including Bobby Wagner, Stephon Gilmore, Odell Beckham,
Wagner sounds like he's basically headed toward
Yeah.
Baltimore, actually.
Tyrann
Yeah.
Matthew,
That makes sense.
Julio Jones,
Yeah, does.
Javelin Clowney, that's Ray's favorite. JC Treader, Jarvis Landry, Melvin Gordon. Any of those guys interest you?
Jarvis Landry, I would say would be the one.
Yes.
And if they got him, then I'd be much more comfortable with them going after Jamison Williams. So Marty, there you go. There's your
Okay.
scenario.
What about you, Ray?
Yeah, out of those, I think the only one that really interests me is Landry as well. I mean, I think if Lawson comes back healthy, I don't know that Clowney would be.
I don't want him even if Lawson doesn't come back healthy. He has such an inflated view of his worth.
Yeah, he's okay, but he's not the guy that everybody seems to want to pay him like he is.
Ralph, I'm not disagreeing with you, but I have no problem a 1-year show me contract, incentive laden, and he'll play hard. Hopefully he'll be on the field to play for another contract. I have no problem with that. At least we could see what's going on with Lawson. I'm not in love with him either, but I love 1-year contracts.
Uh-huh.
Okay. All right, we're going to close it out. All right, guys. And I was going to ask you a trivia question, but it's too easy.
Come on, we need
Oh,
something.
go ahead. We need something.
All right, Jets everyone's talking about wide receivers. Jets had a wide receiver. They traded him, and the first year he was traded, he made the Pro Bowl on another team. He ended up with 689 lifetime receptions. Keep in mind, Don Maynard had 633. Who was he?
Rob Moore.
No, I'm drawing a blank. It's probably so obvious.
You liked him too.
Oh, maybe I don't even want to think about it. Huh?
No.
What? I mean, did we trade him like right away, or
It was an unrestricted free agent.
to Atlanta?
Yes.
Yeah. Terrence Mitchell or Terrence
Mathis.
Oh my God.
Ralph, you liked him. Remember
Slot
that?
guy. Yeah, he was a nice football
You were upset.
player.
All right, for Ralph Schrager, Ray
he had a good
Clifford,
career down
and Marty Shupak, we're going to close this out as we get close to the draft. Until next time.